Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to the latest greatest episode of What Did I Miss? Michelle Beadle here, joined by Paige, Jerome, and I believe we'll have Q on in a little bit. But it was a hell of a sports weekend, a huge sports weekend. We had F1 in Saudi Arabia. We had March Madness continuing on, and it was fun. It was fun to watch everything. It was very hard to find 5 minutes to go outside, but I managed. And I don't know if you guys saw it. Did you guys watch any of these things? What did you watch?
I think we're going to get to it later, but I was very focused on things that were happening on my side of the border. We'll talk about
Yeah, we get it.
But...
Well, I think also we should acknowledge that Gabe is not here today.
Oh,
right.
I thought that was just going to be a nice thing, like a present we were gifted. That's not.
It is. It is, but we should still acknowledge it.
Fine. Gabe's not here. He'll be back.
But he's been replaced by our Canadian bestie.
Yeah,
and producer Jerome.
North of the border. There were sporting events north of the border?
We'll get to it. We don't need to spoil that. We don't need to spoil that. But yes, I watched F1. I watched F1. I watched March Madness. I was really disappointed about America's team. Obviously, I'm talking about the St. Peter's Peacocks. As you know, you've known this about me. I'm a huge Peacocks fan.
Who is
both the team and the animal.
Right.
And but I'm also excited for the storyline. I love that UNC potentially for a second time can give Coach K an L, and or someone else in the finals will potentially give Coach K an ending L. What a treat.
I think we can all agree that America's rooting for Coach K to be handed another L. Yes? We agree?
I think that's
that is the storybook ending that we're all looking for,
right?
Okay,
well, good. We can put that down in the paper, put that down in the records as we all agree on that. Yeah, look, I have Villanova winning the whole thing. It's the only thing I have left in my entire bracket. So I feel pretty good about that. It is kind of funny that we went through all of that and the drama that was St. Peter's, which was, unheard of, historical. And then we end up with UNC, Duke, Kansas, and Villanova. It's almost as if the cream rose to the top. Is that the saying? I believe that's the saying.
Yeah.
So we had that, right? We had that going on. Great madness to watch. We had F1 in Saudi Arabia on a very controversial weekend. Earlier in the weekend, there had been a terrorist attack mere miles from the racetrack. Matter of fact, you could see the plumes of fire and smoke from down there, which turned into into the wee hours of the morning long meeting between drivers, Saudi Arabian officials. Everybody was in on this, right? Drivers were vocal. They want to be there. They were like, I'm not comfortable. This doesn't feel safe. Somehow, after many hours of talking, they were convinced that it was now safe. Weird, right? I don't know. I don't know how you switch like that. Look, bottom line is this. I have talked about this like with friends and on some media outlets. I don't know. The cash grab that comes with having events in Saudi Arabia is obviously a very alluring, intriguing thing if you love cash. But the price that you're paying to be there, whether it be WWE, F1, golf, we had the Phil Mickelson golf situation. Like, that's something that you have to look in the mirror and decide if it was worth it. Personally, I think that the world is huge and there are other places to have events, maybe that aren't so horribly bad about human rights issues, but here we are. Anyways, bottom line was this. Ferrari, killing it. Everyone who prognosticated that Ferrari would have a year, well, they finished 1-2 in the first, 2-3 this weekend, but the GOAT back on top, Max Verstappen. Ooh. By the way, Lewis Hamilton, oddly, didn't even finish in qualifying, started from 16 and finished in 10th. And then sarcastically asked if that even gets a point, which it does. It does, Lewis. You get 1 point for finishing in 10th. But yeah, so it was a good F1 weekend. And the reason it may seem like I'm overly caffeinated getting through these huge sports moments of the weekend is because all of that got bitch slapped right out of public consciousness when the Fresh Prince decided to go rogue. And for that, Quincy wanted to be a part of this conversation, and I do think he needs to be a part of this conversation, Q, because I believe you disagree with like a lot of us on this. If you don't know, my God, I don't know what planet you just flew in from, but Will Smith took offense to a joke that Chris Rock landed about Jada Pinkett, his wife. P.S. Not even a good joke. Alluded to G.I. Jane 2 because she has a bald head. After laughing at it initially, Will Smith then calmly rose from his chair, walked up to the stage, slapped Chris Rock, walked back to his seat, and then proceeded to yell, "Get my my wife's name out of your effing mouth a few times. The only reason we know that is because, thank goodness, other countries don't censor everything, and we were able to watch the video in its entirety. America,
down like the Zapruder film.
Come on,
it
right?
was
like we're
first we got the muted version, and you could read the lips.
Like,
but then there were like awkward silences.
What are they protecting us from? We're celebrating movies. There are bad words, and let's just grow up. But all that being said, it ignited social media. Twitter became just a hot spot. I couldn't stop refreshing. Memes were fast. Things were coming in so fast. Was it real? Wasn't it real? Is this all part of some elaborate, I don't know, they have a movie coming out. What is going on? And for that, I just now, first opinions from everyone. How did you receive it? And what did you think at first?
I'll go first.
Yeah, Jerome, go for it. I got to let you
You're
say
the nicest one here.
We got to let the Canadian go for sure.
Yeah.
I was working on my laptop during that time, just thinking like, oh my gosh, Chris Rock is back. He always has jokes for the awards. This is going to be great. He's going to have a lot of jabs and everyone's going to get a good laugh out of it. And then, exactly to your point, he does this G.I. Jane joke, and I'm just like, that's just like a weird dated reference.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly I just see Will Smith walk up to the stage, and I'm not even processing because I'm still thinking about a bad joke. And then I see a slap across the face, and the mic hits so hard, it booms like a hard bass. Like you would have thought dubstep was going to come after that. And then I thought, like, it looked like a stage hit when you watch it initially.
Right.
But then everything goes silent when you're watching on the American or like the North American broadcast. And I'm just like watching silence. Chris Rock is mouthing something. He's clearly hearing something from Will. It finally cuts to Will, which whoever cut the camera to Will, why would you do that at that point?
Right?
That you read you read his lips clearly. Like, shout out to enunciation. Get your my wife's name out of your effing mouth. And then I became very unproductive.
And then did you immediately, because I immediately went to this, I was like, what is happening? Like,
yeah, well, no, group chat just blew up. Our group chat blew up.
Twitter.
It was just a lot of like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Was that real?
Did you think it was real, Jerome?
In the moment, it didn't look real when the hit happened.
Right.
And then when it cut to Will saying it, I was just like, this is real. This can't, like, we know afterward he won for Best Actor, but he can't act that well.
Well, and not just that, but he's America's dad. He, is Aladdin. It's a Disney company. And you don't drop two loud F-bombs on a Disney company when you're about to win Best Actor for playing a dad in like 30 minutes. It just felt so... I look, for the record, I thought it was fake at first too, because it's a room full of actors. They can all act their asses off. That's why they're there. Like, they could pull anything off. But Lupita Nyong'o's face, for one, was like, I don't, they're not in on it if this is a joke. And just sort of the weird... like we had like a 4-hour long conversation in my house about whether or not it was real, because it was like, well, why didn't anybody go up there? And I'm like, well, the shock, right? People were shocked.
People froze.
Even if we want to give Will credit for being an actor, Chris Rock cannot act well enough to like hide the situation.
Exactly.
And the mental gymnastics.
Hold on, wait.
You were talking about that.
We got to give a shout out to Chris Rock's chin though, because I mean, he took that and just kept going, barely moved or anything like that. And smack or punch or not, like you've moved, you flinched at least something. All he did was, and just keep looking.
And then he kind of laughed. It's like, okay, that's the greatest moment in television right there.
I mean, it seemed more real because it got quiet, right? Like the silence made it legit in my mind. And then you see, like Jerome said, you go to the uncensored version and see that.
As time went on and we started getting more videos on Twitter from the theater as well, that's when you started to be like, oh, this is extremely tense and uncomfortable. But my thought was... bad joke from Chris Rock. Just a bad joke. Like, lame punch down joke. Jada has alopecia. She's been very public about that. And her, whatever. That's just, it's stupid. It's not a good joke. It's not worthy of Chris Rock, in my opinion. However, you don't answer words with physical actions. Ever. Fair. Period. For me, that's where it ends. I know people have other opinions, but that's absurd.
Do it, but do it backstage.
Don't do it on TV. But I also think like
the world's watching.
A couple things. One, if anyone else does that, they're immediately out of the theater, right? If the guy who wins for sound editing slaps someone on stage, he's gone. He's probably banned from the Oscars for the rest of his life. And instead, it felt very surreal to me that we just
editing is really impressed with like how crisp that hit is. I'm telling you right now.
Right. Noted. But I just like, it was very surreal to me that happened. And then we just kept going on as if it didn't happen.
Win.
Yeah, he's going to win.
Okay,
yeah.
So then he wins. And this is where I got actually genuinely upset, which is that in his speech, he says the words, "Love makes you do crazy things." And that is quite literally the language of abusers.
That's true.
That is, love is not a justification for any type of violence. And again, it was a slap. It's not as though he like came up and shot him or something, whatever. But like, you can't, that is a terrible example to set for people. That's inexcusable in my opinion. And to like make this, in my opinion, very misguided, like link somehow to his character in King Richard.
Well, that was a savvy PR move in real time. Like in real time, we watched a statement being made, 20 minutes after the thing that happened. And it was sort of like, wow, that was impressive to turn around and make the speech, never apologize for it. That to me was like, wow.
Well, he apologized to the Academy and his fellow nominees. Who he didn't apologize to is the man he slapped.
Right. Like, what? Hello?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And he was never going to.
But by the way, he's splitting Twitter.
Yeah.
He what?
I don't think he should apologize for it because he did. So like, think about it like this, Paige, because I get kind of where you were going with your point. Like, whereas comedians, there is a line, right, where we all watch comedians or we all like stand-up comedy, and there's a line that comedians just don't cross in their comedy, no matter what they can say. Like in this time of, certain comedians can't say certain things. Well, not even that. There's just a line of, hey, if somebody's dead, if somebody's dying, if somebody has an illness, if somebody has any of these things, it's just a really distasteful joke. And you never know how a person is going to react. So, like, everybody is different. So I can't be like, he shouldn't react like that because, hey, that joke could have been a cancer joke or something like that. It may be alopecia and it's not as bad as, like, a terminal illness. But for her, it affects her differently. So it's like...
Wait, is it possible Chris Rock doesn't maybe keep up with Jada Pinkett's medical history? Is it possible he just doesn't know that he thought this was something she's been doing? Because, by the way, she looks awesome. Yeah. So, like, I could see how someone would just be like, that's her thing. That's what she does now.
I think that's generous. I think if we go...
we're obsessed with people's lives, but are they?
It's possible, but I think even so, I think Jerome said it, pre-recording, but, like, it wasn't... It's, like, not funny. I just don't think that... I don't think that excuses, like, a bad joke that is punching down... that makes someone feel that like it,
if he doesn't know, it's an even worse joke.
Do we think Chris Rock should apologize?
Yeah, that's a good call. Pardon?
Yeah, he should apologize.
No, Q, I swear to God, I will fly to LA, I will bitch slap you, and then I will fly back to Texas, and we will make a point. He should not apologize. He's a comedian.
Keep a local recording for the slap if you don't mind.
Yeah. They're just like so he does the speech, right, about fathers protecting families and what a man does, yada, yada. Okay, so when I hear that, I think, all right, I'm going to protect my family from harm, from pain, from what have you. Like, at the end of the day, these are two adults, Jada and Will, and another adult, and these were just words. And it's like weird fine line. And by the way, there is a line also between the comedians on social media right now that are pissed off at Will Smith. Yeah. And that's been interesting to sort of watch unfold as well. But they're just words. You didn't protect anyone from a shooting arrow or a bullet or a train or a car. There were words. And like, I get it. Something triggered in you. I don't know if this has been boiling and this was us watching Will Smith have some sort of a breakdown on global television.
There were a number of jokes at their expense being made during the Oscars too. Like,
but by the way, this is a family that has chosen, whether it be Red Table Talk, what have you, they have chosen to go very, very open with everything. I know way too much about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's sex life. Stuff I never needed to know, but I do know now. And so you sort of open yourself up to that. You can't kind of pick and choose then, like when people decide to do whatever it is they're going to do with words, mind you, and then flip out. Like, again, the violence thing, and I'm with you, Paige, that it is very much the language of abusers. Like they will hit a woman and say, see what you made me do? It's because I love you so much.
I love you so much.
That's a theme, right? That's a thing. And
Yes.
it's been a thing since the beginning of time. But it's just it was so out of, well, I say it's out of character. I don't know Will Smith. I mean, look, there are stories that say Will Smith's a sweetheart, and then there are stories that say he's a narcissist with some issues. So, like, we don't know him.
He did strike someone, I forget, it was like a red carpet thing, and someone leaned in to give him a kiss, and he immediately reacted by hitting them across the face, pretty much in the same way that he hit Chris Rock.
What if a whole bunch of shit comes out now about Will Smith? And we were like, what?
I doubt that.
I hope not. Look, let me ask you this. Did
Yeah.
your opinion of Will Smith change as a result of last night?
No, not at all. Because I mean, in my eyes, like, and I think of it from the perspective of like, well, if I'm married and my wife's hurt in this moment, if I don't react, then I'm gonna have to deal with it later. Now, my reaction may have been wrong, but I gotta react in that moment.
But he laughed at the joke.
Then he seen that it was wrong. Yeah, I'd probably laugh
He
too.
looked at her.
It felt like a little bit like a build up in the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, to your question about just
obsessed
like,
with it.
did my opinion change? They're just such high profile people that we don't know them.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I have, like having an opinion about the persona is not at all like having any kind of clear idea of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as open as they are too, even then, I mean, it is really interesting for someone at like Will Smith's level of celebrity that so much of his life is left to bear. Like, imagine that was The Rock. Like, because they're basically at the same
If
level.
he punched
and-
The Rock? Or if
He'd
he
have
slapped
blew his
like,
head off.
just like
his
if we knew all
shoulders.
these things about The Rock, like that they were just revealing so many things about this person's life. Because for him, he's very elusive that way.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, for me when I saw it, I like he even talked about it afterward. It felt like a heat of the moment thing.
But he was
felt,
so calm. Like he had to walk all the way up there.
Yeah.
And all the way back. There was no rage. It was just very calm, like a serial killer would enter.
But
your home.
even when you watch him walk back, it's like it's a pent up thing too. Like even like in each step, I don't think he's like calmly walking back as much as like he could have done even more than that. But he wanted to like make that statement in the moment.
I'm obsessed with this, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
Here's my thing. Yeah, Will Smith. I think it was a very bad look for him. Like defending or not defending, like it's just a bad look. For a grown ass man, father to like just do that. It's just not good. I wouldn't want to see my dad do it. I wouldn't see anybody's dad do it. That being said, if Chris Rock apologizes, so help me, and he might have already while we're even doing this, I will never ever love Chris Rock again the way I do. If he apologizes for a joke that wasn't even bad. It was just lame.
You saw the
didn't see him doing
moment.
that.
There was a moment where at post slap, Will's walking back down. Chris says something, and then he starts to say something else, and that's what I'm most interested in, because he had a joke in that holster, and he thought, and then he just put it back down.
Because what comedian
Because
doesn't
that's what
deal with
comedians
hecklers?
do. They're yes, they deal with hecklers, and they're ready to just destroy this
Right?
person. And then I think he had a moment of, we're at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Will Smith. I'm just gonna let me go ahead and introduce whatever
I think
he was
it's wild to
introducing.
me to see something like that happen in that way when it's like you see like a Ricky Gervais who had how many Golden Globes?
Yeah.
And how hard he goes in on everyone
he
and
went
not a single thing.
hard.
And not a single person slapped him.
Not one person.
It's inexcusable.
Comedians that I love, respect, and am big fans of are all going after Will Smith today. Like they are pissed off because like what are we doing? That was lame. It was a bad joke. It was stupid. It wasn't funny. Whatever. Fine. Tell him that. Tell him that's the stupidest. Even if you wanted to yell from your table, that's the worst joke. I don't give a shit. It's the walking up there. It's just a bad look. That's all. I understand.
Because he could have just yelled from where he was sitting, like everything that he yelled.
all
like,
the
straight
things
up.
he yelled.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got a
That
question.
this,
would've been.
Is a slap like this warranted if somebody says something like this to your wife in public? Just makes a joke, a person you may or may not know.
I don't
physical
think so. Here's
altercations
why.
never
also,
appropriate.
You're Will Smith. Like the thing is that's the other thing. You are Will Smith. You have a lot to lose, whether it be financial or brand, whatever. It's just not worth it. There are other ways to handle it, and I just think it's a bad.
I think some of the alternate thinking about that is with the knowledge of it, it makes what he does there more impactful. Because like it, at least like in terms of like the statement maybe that he wants to make in terms of, he says it in his speech, he wants like protecting your family is important and
Sure.
all that. Like
That's
do
why
it
I have a gun in the house
at that
to
in
protect
that moment
my family from words. That's why. I have some words
Right.
that I-
That's the
yeah,
difference. It's words. It's
like
not,
with no
like,
mistakes.
The
Yeah.
biggest for me, the biggest, and this is my last thing on it. Really, is the biggest sort of about it all was that this wasn't Will Smith's celebration night. This was the Oscars, and there were people in that room that have dedicated decades of their lives to this craft that they are so passionate and in love with. That spent years making something that maybe won something or maybe was just nominated for something, and it's a big deal. And like all of that got shadowed. You had the first deaf movie with deaf actors. All of that is just gone. Why? Because the only thing we're gonna remember is this, and it's kind of shitty. Like that's a shitty, selfish, narcissistic thing to do when you think the world revolves around you, and screw the other hundreds of people in here who also worked really, really hard to get here. We don't care about them. That's why
I think it's also fair to say that there's like a lot going on with, like, because everyone obviously has come out and like given their take on what happened there. And I think, like, I was talking to Paige about it before the call, but one of my favorite, at least like in terms of laying out some of the dynamics that's going on, was a tweet that I came across by Amanda Paris. And like, 1, assault is wrong. 2, alopecia is a painful experience that many Black women go through and should not be joked about.
Valid.
The concept of being the protector can be a form of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
But also Black women are rarely protected and deserve to be protected. So
Valid.
I think
that's a lot.
I think like it obviously, like a lot of the takes, especially comedians, like it's coming from a very specific point of view, and everyone's talking about it. We saw it on Twitter. Like between the jokes, there's just like everyone has a thought piece on it, and we're even like offering our opinions here too. But yeah, I think regardless of where you sit on it, it is important to like.
But wouldn't it have been more valuable? You can still protect your wife. You can protect your woman. You can protect Black women. You can protect whoever it is you want to protect. But once you resort to a slap, whatever, that now becomes the focal point. Not the message that, hey, my wife suffers from something. It affects her deeply. It hurts her deeply. Don't make jokes about it. It's not cool. Wouldn't that have been more valuable? But because once the slap, now it's about Will Smith. It's no longer about Jada Pinkett Smith. It's about Will Smith. And so to me, it's like I'm all for protecting groups that are also very much always never protected and just sort of thrown to the wolves. Like I get that, but I don't think that this was that. It didn't feel like this was that.
And I think that like covers like the other side of it, where it's like the protection is important, but that's probably not the way to go about it.
I have a question for you guys. Was this, I think Michael Jr. tweeted this, so I'm ripping him off, but was this a top 5 night on Twitter?
Yes. 100%.
There's a lot of nights on Twitter.
Yeah, but dude, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air slapped a man on global television.
I hear you.
Live.
My only thing, like in terms of like sheer scale, for sure, it's just not as fun.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's not as fun as someone said. Do you remember the llama escape on Twitter?
Yes.
That was that was a day. That I enjoyed.
Well, he didn't say top funny moments or fun moments. He just said top
right.
five.
No, but like it's a
just
big
like a moment where you're like, I'm happy I'm on this website, which
this is F1 athletes versus golf, like semantics again. Like biggest athlete, most athletic. Yeah.
It also depends though, because my Twitter is Black Twitter, whereas y'all Twitters.
I was gonna say that
different
because
Jerome
I have
probably
a
Black
mixed Twitter.
Though, so.
Thank you very much, Q. I have a diverse Twitter. No, but you're right. I did. That's why I wanted to talk about it, because I very much have seen. I've seen what Jerome's talking about. I've seen the argument that Black women, especially, are never protected in society. They're just thrown out there and make a punchline out of what I get that. That's very hurtful for me. I just think that wasn't. I don't think that was effective. I don't think the message was protecting anyone. I think it was, hey, I'm Will Smith, and watch this, and it just.
Yeah,
I don't know anything more about
the
alopecia
ethics of it.
today,
It's just
right?
like asking the question of like, was this the best way to go about it?
Right, that's it. Like, and that's where the sort of irrational moment comes in, where you're not really thinking. That was not well thought out. I think we could all agree that was not a well thought out plan. That was just gonna.
Speaking about like actually well thought out plans, you mentioned the award for Coda wins Best Picture, but also Troy Kutzer wins
Best Supporting Actor.
Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
And that is a really beautiful moment, I think. And like, if we could switch to something a little more wholesome and heartwarming, it's not only just the win there, but I really love the presentation because the presenter was Yoo Jung-yoon, who won last year for Best Supporting Actress for Minari. And she
wouldn't get off stage. It was my favorite part. They tried to, because you're not supposed to stand there while they do their speech, and they tried to get her off, and she's just standing there. And I was like, oh.
But she was very thoughtful, because like I think one thing that she did that I think was really helpful, that she used ASL to announce it, I thought was a really sweet moment. That she helped hold Troy's award because he would need to sign his. So I think there are elements there where it is a little more justified in her standing by him and supporting him. And I thought, like, that's the moment that I wish we could come out of the Oscars with, and not like.
See, Jerome, the egomaniac in me says, "Bitch, you need to step off so that all the pictures that are taken right now are just me." Okay, like, 'cause now I'm gonna be like, "Who's this lady standing next to me?" And all my Oscar pictures. Like, that was
Michelle Beadle slaps presenter at the Podcast Awards 2022.
No, it was. There was some funny. And dare I say, I'm about to say something. Amy Schumer had a couple funny lines.
I thought she was great.
But
I thought they were all great. Regina Hall really relaxed for me. Oof.
My God.
What a delight.
To me, she's not the stand-up comedian of the three. And the COVID thing with the pat downs and the, more of that. I watched 30 minutes of her doing that to men in Hollywood.
Delightful.
It was perfect. Anyways, I don't know how we ended up talking about that for so long. It was supposed to be like 6 minutes, and it was 100 hours. Okay,
because we talked about it all night last night.
We'll take a break. Q, I know you got stuff to do. Thanks, we'll come back. We'll chat with whatever things we missed, which I can't imagine there's anything else. But yeah, we'll be back. Are you the type of person that always thinking about new business ideas or maybe ways to make some extra change? Well, I'm not. But if you are, check out the podcast My First Million. Hosts Sam Parr and San Puri, SP and SP, have both built 8-figure businesses and sold them to HubSpot and Amazon. Now, weekly, they are brainstorming more money-making ideas you can start tomorrow. Whether it's selling high-priced lemonade to big trillion-dollar ideas, they have money-making tips for you. Sometimes they bring on founders, celebrities, billionaires, and get them to open up about business ideas they've never shared before. In episode 190, Best and Worst Ways to Make Money in Your 20s, I love how this information is 20 years late for me. It worked out, I guess. In another episode, making $10,000 a month via vending machines. They taught me how to make passive income. Not that I have a vending machine, but I still think it was a pretty good idea. Search for My First Million on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We are back. Other things happened. And I may have missed, I may not. What else? What I missed, guys?
Okay, Beadle. So if you recall, I know it's only been 2 weeks, but Tom Brady unretired after he retired. And you might imagine that in the 4 to 6 weeks of his retirement, many people reached out. One of them apparently being Peyton Manning, who wrote him what I have to believe is a well-written, very nice letter and a nice bottle of wine. And now Peyton wants those back. Is he justified?
100%. Also,
100%.
I'd like to know what the wine was. More importantly, who is that fast? I am carrying around a newborn baby outfit for my friend Natasha when she had a little boy, and he's like 2 now because I never sent it. Okay, so who sends things that quickly? That is just a
people with assistants.
Oh, good point, Jerome. I don't have an assistant.
Well, okay, let me plug. My birthday is next week, so if you want to start getting something ready.
No, so in 4 years, I will give you the present that I buy you for this birthday.
Okay,
You're
great.
welcome.
I look forward to it.
Okay, perfect. Yes, he deserves everything back. Everybody does.
Totally.
God,
if a wedding doesn't go through, you have to return the gifts.
Such a scam wedding. Such a scam. Okay. How about when they get divorced? Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
I think there's like a statute of limitations. They have to be married for at least a certain amount of time, and
then they could keep my blender. That's bullshit.
Yeah,
it's bullshit. Then I could just
depends on what it is.
Marry someone every few years to get a bunch of stuff.
Hell yeah,
and then do it again. Brilliant. It's brilliant.
I thought that's how the shoes are in the background right now. Like I thought that's how we got here.
I know, right? I've been registered all this time. Jerome, what else? What did I miss?
The Canadian men's national team in soccer beat Jamaica 4-0 and qualified for the World Cup for the first time since 1986.
Oh, cool. All right.
It was a really cool moment. I went there for the Athletics, so I got to be there at BMO Field to see it all happen. for those who don't know, I used to work for Toronto FC before coming here, so I got to see a lot of players that I worked with like celebrate a huge moment. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. Everyone was loud. The stadium hasn't been packed like that for basically since pre-pandemic. And
that's a good point.
Yeah, it was crazy out there. But it was crazy cold too. Shout out Canada. But
it's still cold somewhere?
It's still
the
cold
hell?
somewhere.
It's like 95 down here this week. It's stupid.
But it was a cool moment. It was
I have
awesome.
nothing snarky to say about that, Jerome. Well done, sir.
A historic
Well
moment,
done.
not just for Canadian soccer, but for Canadian people who work on this podcast. That Michelle doesn't have anything snarky to say to him.
Canadian people? I think it's just person. Canadian
Shout
person.
out Canadian people
Person,
that
Canadian
work
person.
on this podcast. Yeah. It's perfect. Okay, what else?
Speaking of historic moments, we learned that, I don't think we were surprised by this, but Urban Meyer really is the gift that keeps on giving. And there's a story...
Like an STD.
The story that someone came out that apparently at a bachelor party, Urban Meyer and others were playing a game of laser tag, as one is to do. And his name was Captain Comeback, and he won with a record of the number of kills. But later it was revealed via a scatter plot that he basically just lit up one 10-year-old kid the whole time. Is he a genius?
He is
Honestly,
a genius.
There is strategy involved in war. That happens to be one of them. So if that's what gets
I could
you
speak
the
from
win,
experience that is not an easy thing to do, because I remember taking my cousin's kids to laser tag.
I love laser tag.
And I thought, camp in this corner, get a couple kills
Right?
off. I surprised the kid so much, he pistol whipped me across the face as if I made a joke about his wife at the Oscars. It was not cool.
Wow, you know what? That one, Urban Meyer, like this. You know what I love most about these Urban Meyer stories? This will now become the new like urban legends. Basically, it'll just be one. We're gonna just see how many times we
The
can
name
outdo
fits.
each other. Yeah, it's perfect. It just transitions seamlessly. Yes, I don't have a problem with that. 10-year-old should have been better at laser tag. What else?
Other things in Canada. Toronto Raptors
Oh
played
my
the Indiana
God. Is there
Pacers.
more stuff in
And it
Canada?
was a mess of a game. A speaker caught fire in the second quarter that caused the building to evacuate, and they had to play the second half in an empty arena. But then for me, it wasn't even that was like the craziest thing. During the local broadcast, as I was watching and trying to see the Raptors get a win, they started talking about San Diego and referencing Anchorman, and one of our local broadcasters, instead of saying Ron Burgundy, references Ron Jeremy.
Oh no! Oh no! Which broadcaster? Was it Jones?
Jack Armstrong.
Okay.
It wasn't your friends Paul Jones and
Okay,
Eric
good.
Smith. No,
I can't imagine he'd make
But,
that mistake.
Incredible.
That's
it
amazing.
was incredible. It was also incredible that he didn't quite catch that he said that. So the other broadcaster, Matt Devlin, laughed for what would be probably about 2 minutes straight
Absolutely.
of just hyperventilating.
Like, yes.
Could not catch himself.
I mean, he's also a famous Ron. I could see the mistake.
It's a famous Ron from the 70s, fictional or real.
By the way, I don't even want to know how a speaker catches on fire. Like that's.
I have
new.
no idea.
Never heard of such a thing.
It's-
Too much Kanye.
That only should happen in
Yeah.
NBA Jam.
Right? God Lord. All right. That's actually really funny. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, we got one more.
Okay, yay.
The U.S. men's national team, we're going to say likely, it's not for sure yet, but likely secured their World Cup bid on Sunday. Fingers crossed. Go them. But the best story that came out of this, in my opinion, is that Christian Pulisic met a high school soccer player and current cancer patient named Mason, who was serving as this game ambassador. And apparently Mason asked Christian to do the worm if he scored. Not only did Christian score once, he scored 3 times. He did do the worm. I think that's what America is all about. But I want to know what the best celebration is, in your opinion.
Oh gosh, like
Number
a
one,
one-man
Sally.
celebration, or because I do like when teams have choreographed celebrations.
Yes.
Was it Sweden years ago? It was some sort of Scandinavian team. This is years now, because I remember we had them on Sports Station, the videos all the time, and they would have like dead fishing thing. Like they'd have this whole elaborate choreographies, and it was brilliant. So I like choreographed team celebrations more than anything else. I'm a fan of those, right? Like,
And it's also a good lesson for anyone who ever feels nervous in dancing. Dance in a choreo, like just dance as a group, and you always look good.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
Even if it's
'Cause
a
you're gonna
simple
be
two-step
better
that you're doing side
than
by
at least-
side.
Well, you're always going to be better than at least one other person,
Yes.
unless you are that one person.
No, but you do it synchronized, and then everyone looks good doing it together, even if it's really basic.
That's fair.
Yeah.
God, there's a lot of stuff that happened this weekend. Not every weekend is this great. All right, taking a break. Come back. Wrap things up. We have voicemail? Yes, we have a voicemail.
We got a voicemail.
All right, we are back. Almost done with this this episode of the podcast, the Will Smith special. And we have a voicemail page. Let me hear it.
We do. Yes. Here we go.
Hey, Beadle. This is Luis Velasquez. And I just called to say I want to say thank you that you have introduced a new sport into my life. I started watching F1 because of your endorsement of it. My first race was the last race of last season, which was crazy. I didn't know what was going on, but it was exciting. And then I watched the Netflix series and officially hooked. This is my first season. That being said, I need help. I don't understand everything, and I was wondering if you could just dumb down what DRS is. So, thank you.
Oh, wow. Dumb it. Oh, well, I'm still learning too, by the way, Luis. And also,
how did
welcome.
I change my voice into Luis Velasquez?
I know, right?
That's what I came on the podcast to ask both of you. Yeah.
So DRS, I'm probably going to butcher this. It's like I don't know whatever. It's a reference to like a drag. So whenever you're within a very specific distance of the car, that is when you have clearance, right? So I want to say it's seconds. It's by seconds. It's not by actual time distance on the road. It's by timing. But yeah, it's again, I Google probably 4 things every race because none of this is second nature to me yet. I'm also very new to it as well. But you're right, because they talk about like Charles Leclerc was talking about like DRS and da-da-da-da, and he had the big final with Max in this last race, and that's how Max ended up winning. But Luis, you're going to get it. I've looked up DRS 1,000 times. I'm almost positive the way I just explained it is awfully confusing and not any better for you at all. So I would suggest a Google box and get back to me.
Maybe watch Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
No, we're not
going to
watch Fast. No, we're not. We're not watching any of that garbage. Stop it. They don't even talk about DRS anyways. They talk about drag, right? Drag. It's the same thing. All right. We did it. We did it. Always go rate, review, do your thing. We have voicemails and texts, as you just heard. And the way you can do that is 631-397-0403. I believe 2 more episodes, and I will have that memorized. Awesome. For Paige, for Jerome, for Q, for Gabe, who's not here, for Chris Rock, and I guess for Will Smith. We'll see you guys next time.
If I'm Gabe, like new Gabe on the Will Smith special, is mine the second Aunt Viv then?
Yes. You are.
Yes, you are.
Way to get it.